Born in the rugged hills of Calabria, the Ndrangheta has grown from a local honored society into one of the most powerful mafias in the world. It built its empire relying on blood ties, secrecy, and an extraordinary ability to expand beyond borders. Today, it dominates the global cocaine trade, controlling key routes from Latin America to Europe. With revenue over 50 billion euros annually, the clans have infiltrated politics, finance, and legitimate industries. Yet most people outside Italy have never even heard their name. Despite law enforcement's efforts to fight them, their structure makes them extremely resilient. The Ndrangheta is not just Calabria's mafia, it is a global criminal power. How did this family-based syndicate become one of the most powerful criminal enterprises on Earth? And why it's impossible to infiltrate? This is the story of the Ndrangheta. The word Ndrangheta comes from Greek. It means courageous man. But their story starts not with courage, but with a myth. Just like the triads stem from secret societies in ancient China, the Ndrangheta is no exception. Legend goes as far back as 1412. 3 Spanish knights, Oso, Mastroso, and Carcañoso, were arrested for avenging their abused sister. However, the 3 men didn't stay idle. Over the course of 30 years, they wrote codes, rules, and initiation rites for a new organization they called Garduna. Eventually, Oso founded Cosa Nostra in Sicily. Mastroso established the Ndrangheta in Calabria, and Carcañoso founded the Camorra in Campania. Is it true? Probably not. The myth probably just provides a social justification for the mob, cheesy enough to sway young men in search of a purpose. The real roots of the Ndrangheta are darker. The organization most likely rose in the pre-Italy unification period within Spanish jails. At the time, several sects spread all over Europe, attracting criminals. Their first businesses were forcing other convicts to pay for religious contributions and managing jail gambling. Today, they lead the global cocaine trade, employing over 50,000 members. The question is, how did they manage to keep it together? The answer is blood. To join, you usually have to be part of a family called Ndrina. At birth, a member is referred to as a young man of honor. To avoid constant fights between families, several clans in the same area are grouped into what's called a locale. Each locale is led by a boss, known as the capo locale, who controls both the business side and the internal disputes. The boss doesn't work alone. He has a bookkeeper to manage money, aka the consigliere, and a man called the crimine to handle violence. Together, they form the leadership team. Within each locale, there are 2 levels: the major society, which is the ruling circle, and the minor society, which is made up of the families themselves. Connecting both sides is a figure called the Daymaster, whose job is to pass along information and orders across the organization. Over the years, the Ndrangheta has grown internationally, so locales were further grouped under major districts like Ionian, Central, and Tyrrhenian. But the structure fundamentally remains the same. Topping the whole body is a council called the Provincia, which basically keeps the clans from killing each other. The names of current Provincia members are still a secret. However, a police operation called Il Crimine in 2010 led to the arrest of Domenico Opedisano, Antonio Cataldo, and Bruno Zucco as members of the council. For outsiders who want to join, the path is very hard. A candidate needs to be carefully chosen, often because of loyalty, usefulness, or connections. He is then introduced to the group by someone who already belongs, and the families decide together if he can be trusted. If accepted, the newcomer goes through a secret ritual. He takes an oath of loyalty, often swearing on a holy picture while pricking his finger so that blood is shed. The card is then burned, symbolizing that his life now belongs to the organization. From that point on, he is bound to the Ndrangheta by blood, secrecy, and obedience. Ultimately, the organizational structure, based on lineage and shared religious practices, makes the Ndrangheta almost impossible to infiltrate. However, above blood, what really unites them is money, and no business made them richer than cocaine. You know what else makes crime organizations a lot of money? Stealing your information online. If your personal info gets leaked, it doesn't just disappear. It goes straight to the dark web. Think about it. Your name, date of birth, social security number, banking details, all of it could be sold to the highest bidder. That's why we rely on Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Why is your phone constantly bombarded with spam and shady texts? Because data brokers are making millions by secretly collecting and selling your personal data to anyone who will pay, from advertisers to identity thieves. We take this seriously because we've seen it firsthand. One of our own team members recently had their entire identity stolen. This is where Aura comes in. It's an all-in-one platform built to keep you safe without you having to lift a finger. Aura is constantly scanning the dark web to find and flag any of your exposed private details, like bank accounts or credit card numbers. You also get a built-in VPN, giving you 100+ locations to secure your connection. And most importantly, if identity theft hits, Aura backs you up with up to $5 million in insurance coverage. Try Aura, free for 14 days by clicking the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen. 14 days is more than enough time to discover where your data is being exposed and sold. Thank you, Aura, for sponsoring this video. In the 1970s, the organization specialized in kidnappings. This generated enough revenue to invest in drug trafficking 10 years later. Their first attempt was heroin, but soon they discovered cocaine. That was the jackpot. But their real breakthrough came in the early 1990s. At the time, the Cosa Nostra sourced cocaine from Colombian cartels and sold it to the Ndrangheta. However, after the Cosa Nostra murdered 2 notorious anti-mafia judges, the Italian government cracked down hard, and as the world watched them burn, the Ndrangheta quietly made deals with Colombian cartels, formerly linked to the Cosa Nostra. At the same time, demand for cocaine in Europe skyrocketed after the US government launched a war on drugs. All the conditions were set for success. The question was, how would they manage distribution? The answer is simple: the port of Gioia Tauro in Calabria. As soon as the port became functional in 1995, the Piramali Mole, Belacco, and Pesci families started using labor racketeering and extortion to pressure workers. They were charging $1.50 for each container transshipped at the port each year. By then, the port registered more than 500,000 cargoes per year. So for years, the Ndrangheta smuggled more than 80% of Europe's cocaine through Gioia Tauro. But as they faced more scrutiny, their methods changed. One effective technique they use is the rip-off. Here's how it works. The Ndrangheta recruits a port worker who breaks the customs seal of a container and hides cocaine inside a normal shipment without the shipping company ever knowing. Once the container arrives, Ndrangheta soldiers, commonly called cleaners, open it, grab the cocaine, and close it again in minutes. Some cleaners can remove 100 kilos in just 3 minutes. When police began catching on, the Ndrangheta got smarter. They started buying struggling cargo companies. With that, they could move goods through the port without suspicion. Reports said that the cocaine smuggled through the port of Gioia Tauro is 90% pure. This means that it can be cut up to 4 times before sale to the regular Joe. Between 2011 and 2014, more than 50 tons transited through the port. Given that the average street price of cocaine in Western Europe is somewhere between 60 to 70 euros per gram, the organization racks in billions of euros every year. The thing is, it is a sheer game of volume. So for every police seizure, there are about 9 drug shipments which slip by. As the Ndrangheta's influence increases, so do efforts to stop them. But what keeps authorities from finally cracking down on them is a scary code of silence. As we've seen, the way the Ndrangheta is built makes it almost impossible to infiltrate, and members almost never talk. But every now and then, someone does break the silence, sometimes even turning against their own family. These rare insiders often become key informants for police operations against the Mafia. Since the discovery of the Ndrangheta, authorities ran several operations to fight them. One of the most successful operations was called Operation Pollino. In 2014, Italian police and FBI agents intercepted a cocaine shipment. The drug was intended for the New York and European markets. Italian authorities had been working with the FBI for months. From audio and video wiretaps, they discovered something. A family had been using a pizzeria in Queens as a front business for cocaine smuggling to New York and Calabria. It didn't take long for a man named Gregorio Gigliotti and his entire family to be arrested. 2 months later, law enforcement seized 260-kilo cocaine shipments. In 2020, in a joint operation between the French and Italian authorities, more than 550 police officers were deployed. They had zeroed in on a group of men linked to the Mafia. The police were clearly tipped in. But who the hell dares to snitch on the mob? If you betray the Ndrangheta, you're a dead man walking. Maria Conchetta was an example. Born into the syndicate, her husband and family abused her horribly. So she fled the life and flipped, becoming a police informant. She spilled everything: secret gun stashes, details on racketeering, and even several murders. She left her kids behind and ran away. In 2011, even though the police warned her not to, she went back to the family home to get her children. That decision killed her. Once inside, her family subjected her to days of psychological torture and beatings before they forced her to drink an entire bottle of highly corrosive muriatic acid. A few people, like Giuseppina Pesci, actually survived turning against the group, but they spend the rest of their days isolated and terrified. The Ndrangheta controls almost all its members. It keeps them in line and allows the syndicate to keep playing its dangerous hide-and-seek game with the cops. Part of their strength also comes from how they invest in the next generation. Some successors don't become mobsters in the streets. They become lawyers, bankers, even politicians. They act as bridges between the underworld and the world we all see. But no empire stays on top forever. Lately, the Albanian crews have been coming up fast. At first, they were runners moving drugs here and there, but they learned the ropes, built their own contacts with producers, and started running the game themselves. Today, many believe they could soon rival the Calabrians. The Ndrangheta seems to be cool with it. When the money's in the tens of billions, there's space for partnerships. The coke game is just too big for one crew to own it all. We usually get many emails from you guys asking how we make our YouTube videos. Since many of you are interested in pursuing YouTube content creation, we've made a small guide guiding you through what to expect, the do's and don'ts, and how to go about things. Click the link in the description and download the guide. It's 100% free of charge. Subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.